Hey y'all, Sunshine 1979 here. So, we're going to take a look at the TBI investigating the medical examiner in a drug arrest. Asheville. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is examining allegations that the state medical examiner's arrest in Mississippi on a drug charge had evidence from a Nashville case with him. Nashville prosecutor Tory Johnson said Thursday that he asked the TBI to step in after authorities in Mississippi said evidence that belonged to the medical examiner's office in Nashville was found with Bruce Levy. Officials wouldn't identify the missing evidence, though TBI spokeswoman Kristen Helms said, "We're looking into where the marijuana came from." Johnson said an audit of the evidence room is being launched to make sure that nothing else is missing. Levi contracts in Tennessee, Mississippi were suspended following his arrest. Johnson said his official is going through its files, determining which cases will need a new trial witnesses to replace Levi. Though he had added that Levi has in recent years focused on administrative work other than autopsies. Levy did not immediately return the message left on his cell. Tennessee Health Commissioner Susan Cooper on Thursday named Teresa Campbell as acting state medical examiner. Campbell was previously deputy state medical examiner and professor of the forensic pathology of East Tennessee State University Medical School. She is also the flight surgeon with the Tennessee Air National Guard. Just thought we would take a look today, guys, at the corruption in the ME's office. These medical examiners' names will become rather common to you over the course of our What the Hell's Going On in Tennessee series. So the hunt begins for the discredited medical examiner. A local defense attorney says he has doubts and will be easy to force a discredited state medical examiner back into Hamilton County criminal courtroom to face allegations that he botched yet another autopsy. The former Dr. Charles Harlan already has lost his medical license and apparently now is living with his mother in Missouri after officials concluded that he had been making false statements on Tennessee autopsy reports for years. Defense attorney Dan Ripper said. Mr. Ripper estimates his client, convicted killer Stefan Beasley, Lawan Beasley, is just one of the many defendants across the state continuing to use Dr. Harlan's ruined reputation as fuel for bids in his trials. Probably as many people who are in jail after the cases in which Dr. Harlan testified and the number who could be challenging their convictions because of him, Mr. Ripper said. Mr. Beasley's appeal kicked into high gear in 2005, the same year when Dr. Harlan lost his medical license when the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners concluded that he had committed numerous acts of malpractice, fraud, deceit, and unprofessional conduct. The Tennessee Supreme Court denied Mr. Beasley's appeal once, but a motion he made in Hamilton County Criminal Court in 2008 convinced Judge Don Poole to set a hearing. The proceedings will examine Mr. Beasley's claims that the doctor's autopsy girlfriend's death led to a felony murder conviction and life in prison with no possibility of parole. The hearing has been set for June 7th after many delays, and Mr. Ripper has said that Mr. Harlan can be found. If need to ensure the unwilling to come here, which I don't think will be much of a stretch, and they'll take appropriate measures to get him here, Mr. Ripper said. Mr. Harlan could not be reached for comment. Medical examiners such as Mr. Harlan perform thousands of autopsies over the course of their careers and frequently testify at murder trials. Although there are no records showing that many of these times Mr. Harlan testified as expert witness with a professional investigation against him, as well as another prominent state murder trial in which the convictions were challenging his work highlight the many problems that still swirling around the former doctor. ABC's National News Program 2020 profiled Mr. Harlan on March the 5th regarding a murder trial of Blount County that sent defendants Gary Sutton and James Dellinger to death row in 1996 for the killing of Tommy Griffin. In that case, Dr. Harlan testified it was possible that the bodies to be rigor mortis in 3 days after death, that the blood could still look bright red and be wet after days. That supported prosecution's theory that Mr. Griffin died on Friday died on Friday when he was with the defendants, even though police found his body with rigor mortis and fresh wounds the following Monday. Rigor mortis of the gradual stiffening of the body goes away within 36 hours of death, according to medical experts. Mr. Sutton and Mr. Dellinger deny the killing. Mr. Beasley's case is different, since he confessed to the 1993 killing of his estranged girlfriend, but he still alleges that Mr. Harlan's testimony seriously hurt him at trial. Mr. Beasley wants to prove at the June 7th hearing that Dr. Harlan purportedly made a gash to victims Saunders Shipley's throat during the autopsy, thereby making him look like a monster to the jury. He also alleges that the former doctor deliberately made markings on her fingers, leading the jurors to believe that Beasley stole her rings before shooting her. Such evidence which shows he has supposedly committed a separate felony during a killing led to the felony murders conviction and life prison sentence without parole at the 1994 trial of Mr. Beasley. Was the only person time to ever receive such a punishment in Hamilton County. The prosecution denies that Dr. Harlan's testimony had anything to do with the outcome of Mr. Beasley's trial. Mr. Beasley fails to identify and newly discovered evidence or how newly discovered evidence would have resulted in a different judgment. Executive Assistant District Attorney Neil Pinkerton states in the court documents. Dark secrets, corruptions, cover-ups, and no justice for families. And as always, thanks for watching. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. If you see something, say something. And become a member of the Army for the Voices. There's no cold case, no child that should ever be a cold case. That's why we're here in this true crime community, guys. Let's pull together and remember the reason why we're here, why we do what we do. Let's show this corruption. Let's bring this corruption to light so that way everybody can see all the corruption that's going on in Tennessee. This doesn't just happen across the sea. This happens here in our homes, in our backyards, in our counties, where we raised our children. Retired and moved away. It's very sad. So please help me share these stories. Help me share these names. And as I said, as we go through our Tennessee What the Hell's Going On series, we will see that a lot of these names are consistent names that you will constantly hear. MEs that are corrupt. Autopsy reports that have been botched. This guy, serious allegations against him. If you read a little bit further into these MEs, there's one ME that was actually discredited because there were, trigger warning, guys, again, this is a murder cold case channel, body parts stored in jars. These are people that are being paid taxpayers' money to protect, serve our communities. Remember, guys, subscribe, like, and share.